The Experience of Walden by Rob Brower. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. Henry David Thoreau. As I look over Walden Pond and see a stick floating on the water from a kid that just threw it there, I hear and feel the leaves crush under my feet, for it is fall and they just fell from the trees above. Nothing but silence and cold air fills my lungs, except for the Concord train that had passed several times that morning. Not even the birds making a sound, for it is too late into the cold hibernation. I have been to this spot before, but never does it feel like this. Maybe it is because there are not people around me laughing and playing in the sand, but rather a state of tranquility. There must be a factor, but the real reason in my mind is the reading of Walden. Reading Thoreau's writing really enlightened me to the beauty of this place and opened me to what it was like living here. Over the past couple of weeks, we have been going through and reading the first part of Walden, titled Economy. While reading this, I have written about it in very different formats, whether it is a small reflection in the intro when I was sitting down at Walden Pond, or a response I wrote right after reading a part of Walden, or a well-planned and thought-out paragraph focusing on a certain topic. Hopefully this will be a collection of my best works about Walden. The fallacy of philanthropy. Why do people give to others? When I say that, the first thing that might pop into your head is, how can you be so selfish not to help others in need? That is not what I'm saying. I'm simply asking why. In Walden, Thoreau is asking the same question. Thoreau does not want people to help him. He wants to do things on his own. If I knew for a certainty that a man was coming to my house with the conscious design of doing me good, I should run for my life. Thoreau. Thoreau must think that since he does not want or need help, he should not help others because they might not want help. You might think that is selfish, but if you think about why people are philanthropic, it is not. Although philanthropy is to help others, people truly do it to feel good about themselves. If you ask almost anybody that is helping another person, they'll say that they get a good feeling doing it. So really, they're helping themselves feel good as well. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't help other people. In fact, I think just about the opposite of that. It is very important to help people in need, and sometimes it is not about the feeling that you get, but rather just doing the right thing. The point that I'm trying to make is that don't call people selfish when they don't help others in need by donating and volunteering, because most likely you are doing it for yourself as well. Although writing about something when it is fresh in your mind is always the best, because you can capture the full amount of motion and power that is running through you, sometimes it pays off to spend more time in thinking and refining your ideas. The first piece, where I had a central theme, was about analysis about education in Walden and how most people do it wrong. This topic is one of the rare occasions where I agree with Thoreau fully. Education. What does it take to truly learn something and have it etched into your brain forever? In society, educations come in the form of a teacher standing up at a podium and telling you how to do something or how something works. In Economy, the first chapter of Walden by Henry David Thoreau, he tells us time and time again that the only way to learn is by experience, unlike the way most schools teach, and even to this day, his word has not been heard. Sitting in a class, listening to how a cell works will never be remembered longer than a minute, but experiencing the world will last a lifetime. To learn about life, you will first have to experience it. In Economy, Thoreau writes about education and how people should learn everything by experience, and not by people telling them how something works or what to do when. But, says one, you do not mean that the student should go to work with their hands instead of their heads? I do not mean that exactly, but I mean something which you might think a good deal like that. I mean that they should not play life or study it merely while the community supports them at this expensive game, but earnestly live it from beginning to end. How could youths better learn to live than by once trying the experiment of living? Methinks this would exercise the mind as much as mathematics. Walden, Thoreau. The point that Thoreau is trying to say, I agree with in almost every way. When he says, how could youths better learn to live than by at once trying the experiment of living. He means that how can you learn about life when you spend all your time learning it and not truly experiencing it? When you experience something, you'll learn more about it in the time you spend experiencing life than you ever would sitting in a classroom thinking about something that you could go out and do for yourself. For example, over the summer I built a cabin, and in that 1 month I learned more about carpentry than I ever had in my years of cutting and making boxes in school. When things are brought to a real world level, it sticks into your brain far more than any classroom experience. Most of the time, schools lecture students about the topics in life, but if we listen to Thoreau, he tells us that we should leave time for people to go and experiencing life in a fuller, more natural view. People don't need to go out and spend money on an expensive school if they don't teach in an effective way. This is a testament to Thoreau's main gripe, which is simplicity. Simplicity. Living simple can sometimes be a hindrance, but more often than not, it is a blessing. In Walden, Thoreau moves to the woods to build a cabin next to Walden Pond. In doing so, he gets rid of all he owns and lives in a small cabin with a bed, a desk, and a stove. Not owning anything and not being responsible for anything makes life much more relaxing. He does not need to worry about having money for food, he does not need to worry about something being stolen from his house, he does not need to worry about what others think of him. Thoreau lived in a no-strings-attached sort of life. This quote is from Walden by Henry David Thoreau in the section titled Economy. Thoreau explains his move to the woods and why he prefers it over his past life, living in the middle of Concord. It appeared to me that for a like reason, men remain in their present, low and primitive condition. But if they should feel the influence of the spring of springs arousing them, then they would of necessity rise to a higher and more ethereal life. Thoreau. In this quote, Thoreau says that you should be able to experience spring by noticing what it has to offer, and that if you do this, you will be able to achieve a higher and more ethereal life. But the only way of experiencing this is to have time to relax and look around and not to be clogged up with all the aspects of your busy life. If you live simply, you don't have all the things to worry about and there's nothing to tie you down, so it leaves you more time to enjoy life how it is truly meant to be. Living simply means that you have nothing to worry about, and life without worries is a better life. Conclusion. Although writing about a piece of literature is essential in understanding and getting to a deeper meaning in a book, there is more to it than essays and blogs. The real reason why reading Walden was such a rewarding experience is because of all the ways that we got to truly experience it. In the beginning of the journey, as Fitz was trying to get us to open our eyes to Thoreau's ideas instead of saying, "Thoreau is full of crap," like Jack might say, we went outside and read the first part of Walden sitting under a maple tree on a warm fall day with a clear blue sky. Whether he wooed us with the experience of what Thoreau experienced, or the fact of just being outside on a warm day, either way, it gave me a warm feeling about Walden from the beginning. After most of us accepted that Thoreau has a valid point, and that he has a reason behind what some might say, his ridiculous statements, we had a Harkness discussion. For those of you that do not know what a Harkness discussion is, it revolves around the idea that the best way to learn is to be part of a discussion about the topic and get to experience it to its fullest potential. With everybody bringing ideas and thoughts to the table, we managed to get into some deep topics. The most amazing part is yet to come, because most of this happens without a teacher intervening. A teacher might start off the conversation with an opening question, but after the initial push, they will sit back and see what they can learn from the students. The most memorable experience I had about Walden was visiting Walden Pond for my class and experiencing what Thoreau's life would be like. Between visiting the recreation of his small cabin to watching some of my friends swim in freezing cold water without a change of clothes and with no towel, the entire experience will be remembered for my life. When you read a book as complex as Walden, you need to spend more time than usual experiencing the book because you need to figure out truly what the book is about and go deeper than your weekend read. I think the experience of reading Walden was such a rewarding experience because of all the extra activities that we did that were fun, but also enriched our learning and the experience of reading Walden.